What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe, and I hope you guys all had a great weekend. I hope you had a nice, warm, rain-free weekend like we had here in Alberta, as things are dry. Things are very dry, which is typical for our, well, I guess for April and May as it is in Alberta. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Welcome back, as we have lots to discuss this week. In terms of good old Skippy, Justin Trudeau, and him jetting off to jolly old England again. Now, the last time he was in England, he had a nice, $6,000 a night hotel bill. I'm curious what the costs are going to be this time for good old King Floppy Ears coronation. We'll see how that goes. Let's go jump in and see who's jumping into the chat so far. Mystical, welcome into the stream. Everybody should be feeling that way this evening. Welcome in. This comment has been sponsored by NordVPN. Well, you're going to need a VPN these days, especially with Bill C-11 going through. Still waiting to see over the next little while how that's going to affect YouTube, but hey, we'll see. We'll see. The fires are burning on purpose, says Jason. Welcome into the stream. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that and what I think going into this. What a weekend it's been talking about that. That's been crazy. Yeah, I'll wait for everybody to get in because we just went live, and we'll wait for everybody to get settled before we jump into the politics and we jump into the news, I guess you could call it. As for things over here, well, I'm still working away on our newest book about grooming, everything about grooming, and it's getting interesting. This is a harder book to make because usually when I've done political books in the past, all we've had to do is call a character the prime minister, or, when we talk about Klaus Schwab, we call him the Cotton Schwab and things like that. So this one, because we're talking about grooming children and accusations, they're technically accusations, even though it's not political, because it's satire, because it's parody. I was going to say not political, because it's parody. It's technically within the realm of protection. But the problem when it comes to parody is that what somebody considers parody and what some person considers defamation are two different things. So this one's going to take some time to write. It's taking a little longer than I expected. Simply because I have to make sure that we avoid as many legal strikes against us as possible putting it out. So please be patient as that project continues. And speaking of projects, I'm going to announce on this show, and maybe if you're watching this tomorrow on the rerun on Monday, or if you're in the audience right now watching, a lot of people have talked to me about signings and being at places to do book signings and things like that. My ability, because of Amazon throttling our sales, my ability to just hop on a plane and go anywhere or drive across the country is very limited. So what I've decided to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start selling my books directly. And I don't know the first thing about setting up a website. Maybe I just set up an email address. People can email me. They can tell me how many copies they want and we'll reply. But what I will start doing is there is going to be a cost to me purchasing and reshipping my books and getting them out to people directly. So because there's going to be an extra cost associated, what I've decided to do is I'll be selling my books direct, but also signing every single copy that I ship so that people who want to buy them directly can purchase them through this email address or whatever I set up in order to take these orders. And if we run out of books, I'll simply order more, and then shipments will move as soon as those books come in and get signed. So if that's something you guys are interested in, if you want to purchase signed autographed books for your collection or as a set, let me know if you'd want to do that, because I really, the problem is between YouTube, between a mayoral run, between writing a new book and promoting books, it's hard to set time aside for new projects when my plate is already full. So if it's not something you guys want, that's okay. I know people are going to say, what a grift. I'm simply trying to fill people's demands. If it's something you want, let me know. and it's something I will try to put together so that I can keep the people who have supported our projects happy, and I'll try my best to find a solution on the shipping so that costs aren't too high when when things go down. Let's get caught up in the chat. The big question is whose pants are on fire. I'm willing to bet Rachel Notley's. Severo's jumping in. How you doing? Mike jumping in with Derek for mayor. Thank you, Mike. Welcome into the stream. May the YYC live forever. Says Jason with a Derek for mayor. Thank you. I appreciate that. Chippy's coming in. How you doing, Chippy? Welcome into the stream. Good evening to you, sir. Like grifter from the Wildcats. No, it's not that kind of grifter. Everybody likes to. Severo, I'll buy direct. Severo's daughter's my illustrator's father. You already get them direct. What are you talking about? Yeah, it's been an interesting week. We finally. I went to my local as soon as I heard the strike had ended with what is it, CPAC or whatever it was. I went into our local passport office to finally get my kids' passports ordered for later on in the year, and we sat there for a good 4 hours. It took us 4 hours to get passports done, but luckily when I sat down, the agent at the desk, she gave us a mailing date and told us that they should be here within 3 weeks. So that's better because I'd heard horror stories about after lockdowns, people were waiting weeks, if not months, for passports, that there was a backlog. Maybe the deal from their strike was so good that they're getting to work, I guess. We'll see. But a long time of getting those passports picked up. I've also booked my kids another trip, and I'm going to take them to Idaho, which people are saying, why would you go to Idaho? Well, I guess it's technically Idaho/Washington. We're about a 7-hour drive from a theme park called Silverwood, and I've been told it is quite it's good for families. It's a cool place to go and check out at least once. So my brother-in-law's gone there with his family a few times, so I decided, you know what, middle of summer, let's just pack up the family. We'll go for a few days. We'll get out of town and make use of those passports, because there's no point in getting them for one trip and then never using them again. So we'll make use of them, and we'll get out of town for a few days. So my kids are looking forward to that. They've been told about that trip. Not so much the one we're taking in September, but because we want to keep that one a surprise. But they know about Silverwood, and I've looked at Silverwood on YouTube. It looks pretty cool. Dylan coming in, or Dallin, sorry. Silverwood, I went there in the 90s. I hope it's as good as it looks. I mean, it's I don't know. It looks like fun. Anyways, it's only about a 7-hour drive from where I am. So, and if you stay there for a few days, that kind of makes it worth it, I guess. But Trudeau is a commie coming in. It's dry, but we have our normal spring snowstorm. Stop spreading your fears. Well, okay, so we're not going to worry about fears. I'm going to talk a little bit about my tweet that I put out this weekend that had a lot of pushback, and a lot of support too. But I think the context of what I was tweeting got thrown out of proportion. The problem with Twitter, you only have so much space to say what you got to say, that sometimes, a lot of the times, especially the people who disagree with you, stretch what you're saying, and we're going to get into that. Got back trip from Washington, BC trip. Nice. Well, Chippy, I hope you had a great time. That's a gorgeous, BC's a wonderful part of the country. His passport was supposed to be shipped for the 18th for his trip. It never came in time. Well, I mean, like, I'm not going anywhere till at least July. So, I mean, even if there's a slight delay, I've still got time. So I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, so the northern gap of Idaho. So we're kind of going in. So Silverwood. I was going to say Sandpoint. That's in Montana. Silverwood is in Idaho, but we're staying in Spokane, which is like a 40-minute drive from Silverwood. So Spokane's in Washington, Silverwood's in Idaho. So technically we're going to 2 states in one day. Dallin saying a lot has changed since then. Yeah, I actually watched a video on Silverwood that shows all the stuff they're bringing in this year and what they've still got. And it looks like fun. It's so Mystical obviously has seen my tweet. We'll get into that. We'll get into it. Bad Anger Management, welcome to the stream. BC is nice to visit. Yes, it is nice to visit. Yes, and I know what you mean by that. But let's jump in, shall we? Let's get into this week and what the controversy came from, because my God, there was like, I've never had a tweet in a while take off like this and have so much discussion. Let's so I've tweeted out this lovely picture of Ralph in his NDP shirt saying I'm NDPing myself. And I asked everybody, because there's been a lot going around about Danielle Smith saying that somehow she's not handling these fires in Alberta very well. And look, it happens every year. Okay. Every dry season we get fires, and what she had tweeted out was that something like 60% of the fires that are going on right now are caused by human negligence, and not by nature or natural causes. So these fires have been spreading out of control. We look at what happened 5 years, or not, well, more than 5 years ago now, over in Fort Mac, which that tragedy of that town almost being burned, well, a quarter of the town being burned to the ground, and people misplaced. And there's been lots of people misplaced in fires right now across Alberta, and it's a shame to see. But a lot of people blaming, of course, Danielle Smith, because we're in election season. We're in the middle of a campaign run for the new premier, which is going down later this month. And a lot of people are blaming Danielle Smith. So all I've said is, am I the only one who finds it a little suspicious that as soon as the campaign begins in Alberta, there is suddenly mass fire outbreaks across the province that started in human error? It seems too convenient. I pray I'm wrong. Now, what I've meant by that isn't that we have a problem where NDP supporters are starting fire. I simply posted the meme of Ralph because, first off, I think it's funny. Second of all, a lot of the times they catch these radicals that, whether it's Antifa or any of these social evangelists that work for, that work within small groups, they're usually left-leaning supporters. I hate to say it like that, and I'm not trying to be critical of people. They're typically left-leaning. They stick to the environment. They stick to their cause. They hate anybody who talks oil and gas, who talk anything reasonable. These are people who want to go like off the grid and no emissions, and that's okay. I'm not here to talk about their views and opinions. What I'm saying is that I posted an NDP picture alongside the tweet, simply making a statement that there's people that are starting these fires, and is it any coincidence that they all seem to arise as soon as an election campaign gets started? Now, why do I bring that up? Why do I ask about that? Well, we've had a problem where charges were laid back in April, in a string of deliberately set fires in Alberta, including a fire that destroyed a church. Now, this is an Alberta man who's been charged in connection with a string of suspicious fires, including one that destroyed a church in late April. Back in August 2022, police began an investigation of several wildfires, Hilda Lake, Cold Lake, Provincial Park, Ardmore, Cherry Grove areas. The fires were suspicious, and investigation revealed that they had been intentionally set. Now, this isn't saying that anything recent has happened, because of what I was asking about was, it seems too convenient. Keep in mind on my tweet here, it seems too convenient. I pray I'm wrong. And I'm referring to this. I'm referring to this article stating that, hey, last year, this lunatic went and spread multiple fires, and he did it out of activism purposes. And he stated that we're killing the environment. And the best way to combat that, I guess, is to go set a bunch of fires, right? And cause people to lose their homes, kill people, harm people. The problem is that the NDP are using it as, well, they're grasping at straws. They're using any argument they can right now to throw at Danielle Smith, whether it's the new arena deal in Calgary, whether it's the wildfires. So I guess I'm trying to just point out that hey, is it convenience? Is it dry season? When Danielle Smith has said 60% of these fires are being caused by people's negligence or possibly intentionally, it's merely a talking point. So I'm not going out of my way and saying that, hey, every fire is because, somebody purposely started it, or every single fire is because of this or that. Um, and I, you know what, I should probably get back into the tweets, because that's where, like, 734 likes with 145 retweets. Like, this thing went nuts. I haven't had a tweet go that crazy in a while. Of course, good friend of the channel, Joe, coming in, spinning another way. Clearly, increasing the carbon tax has led to forest fires. I mean, that's hilarious. So some people took a joke out of it. But then we've got this guy coming in, just waiting for Derek to blame flooding on woke voters next. Clearly missing the point of what I texted on. But there were people down here saying that is it a coincidence? Spring is always grass fire season in Alberta. The grass is super dry until June when we get rain. What made this season spicy is the gale force winds, the major starters of grass fires, field burns, cigarettes, lightning, and trains. Well, that's fine. That's, like, again, I'm not saying who's right or wrong in this. I was just saying, if anybody is intentionally starting these fires, like this guy did last year, isn't it convenient that it's being used as an arguing point in the election, and that it happens to be a talking point and a big emergency right when that kicks off? That's it. I wish there was more to it than that, but it was just a mere, hey, I hope I'm wrong about this. But am I the only one who finds it convenient? Because, look, Danielle Smith put in the new deal for the Saddle Dome with the Flames. Rachel Notley has shut that down. We talked about that earlier this week in a video I put out, that Notley has said that she's going to reverse the decision on that arena should she win her seat in the election. The NDP are scrambling to find anything to go after Danielle Smith for. When fires are happening, if flooding was happening, the flooding would be, oh, look how poorly she's handling this. Let's get more votes for the NDP. Let's fix this. It's not like, and if I said, isn't it convenient? They're like, I'd more say, are they using the flood to try and, mitigate that Danielle Smith doesn't know how to do her job? Not that the NDP caused the flood, right? Like, that's, I don't know. I had some people saying, well, you're going to say that every fire now is started by somebody who hates, conservatives. And it's like, that's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that it's been reported that 60% of those fires were either negligent or possibly intentionally caused. Anyways, let's get into, you sent a link to a woman who was just released after being charged with over 30 counts of arson. Oh, I just sent you a link. People are deliberately setting fires. I just can't say what their motives are. And that's okay. Like, and I'm not saying what their motives are either. And I guess that's the point that I was trying to make, is that, look, it was just coincidence. We're only 7 days into election season. We started election kickoff officially May 1st. We're 7 days into election season, and the fires have been a hot, no pun intended, hot topic. And all I just said was, is it any coincidence that all of these fires are starting right when this begins? Like, and that it's the main attack against Danielle Smith. Not that people are supporting the NDP and going out and burning down towns. I mean, this is what I hate about online, and this is what I hate about Twitter. And I don't know if you guys ever get caught up in these things online, but you say something and people just take what you've said. Like, you could say, hey, the sky is blue. And somebody will turn around and say, well, look at this guy said the sky's blue, and then it's blue because, hydrogen gas came out of, like a pipe, and it's naturally supposed to be clear. And it, like, somebody could, I'm way off on my science here, but what I'm saying is that you say something online and suddenly somebody twists it around to fit their narrative and say that you've said all these horrible things and that you're intentionally shit posting. And it's like, no, I was simply asking a question that Am I finding it a coincidence? Is that it? That's it, guys. There's no more. It's speaking of Joe, he's jumped in. How you doing, Joe? I mean, we do know the intentions behind the group responsible for the Banff fire. Well, we do know their intentions, but again, that's where I'm saying, like, the only reason the NDP picture was posted in that tweet is because the people who typically do these things are left-leaning activists. It had nothing to do with NDP supporters going out and starting fires to, sabotage Danielle Smith. That's, come on. We're not putting on tinfoil hats here. Not completely, anyways. That's crazy. That was crazy. These are the things I have to look forward to when my mayoral campaign starts. Is I'll say, like, "Hey, we need to lower taxes," and someone will say, "Did you hear this guy? He's going to lower taxes so people, pay less, and the homeless people can't afford this or that, or we won't be able to clean our streets." Like, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. I think Bart Simpson always says that, and boy, is he right. It's never easy. Somebody who is going to be scrutinized. Somebody who is going to be heavily scrutinized. Justin Trudeau, good old Skippy, once again travels back to England. Now, he was in England for the Queen's funeral, and we know that he had his lovely $6,000 room or a $6,000 a night hotel room where he was drunk singing Queen, about the Queen. No, just Queen. Singing Queen for the Queen. And now he goes in for King Floppy Ears' coronation. So they take in a pageantry of Britain's first coronation in 70 years. Now, this pompous, I'm not even going to get into him. He's just horrible in every way, shape, and form. But you can see Justin Trudeau down here with his wife. Now, they are holding hands. They are together. She looks happy. And then if you go down to this picture, like, you can see it's kind of a fake. I don't want to say it completely with Sophie, but this false, it almost looks like a magazine pose. I call it like smile for the cameras while we're together. They ironically showed up on two different flights. Trudeau showed up by himself and she came on a separate flight, which, I mean, there's been rumors going around about what's happening with them for ages. And yeah, I wonder how much that's going to cost the taxpayers. And I'm curious what we're going to be discussing in terms of his costs this time round with Trudeau's gallivanting as he continues to jet set around the country, or around the world, I should say. He kind of just goes wherever he wants. He went to Jamaica on the taxpayers' dime and racked up a bunch of charges. Pierre Poilievre has asked him to repay those costs, at which point for the compensated villa he was given, that totaled, I believe it was $8,000 a night or something like that, or it was some astronomical amount that was going to total somewhere around $90,000. And Trudeau won't pay it back because why should he? He's entitled to live in the lap of luxury as the leader. I mean, as the dictator of Canada. He gets to thrive off of Canadian taxpayers, and therein lies the problem with politicians, and not just Trudeau. We've seen this with all sorts of levels of politicians. I apologize. I don't mean to keep drinking on stream. It's dry. It's dry. This is where all these fires are going. It's very dry around here. The problem with politicians, and we've seen this in Calgary with Naheed Nenshi beforehand when he used to travel. He was caught upgrading his experiences, so to speak, and using taxpayer money to do that. We've seen it with Trudeau a million times. We've seen it with other leaders where they act like the Canadian taxpayers are their endless bank accounts. And that's a huge problem. People tend to forget and people don't like to use the term public servant anymore when it comes to government. I think that should be the term. You're there by the will of the people. You're not there because you're entitled to something. You're there because you've been elected the most competent person to do the job in that field. So just because, like, when you look at Justin Trudeau in particular, This is a man whose grocery bill is paid for by taxpayers, his home is paid for by taxpayers, his car, his gas, his trips, yet he makes over $250,000 a year. And that money probably just sits because, well, he gets everything on the taxpayer's dime, so why should he pay for anything? Why? I bet when he goes and does his silly little bungee jumping excursions, those places say, well, if you let us do a photo op, it's free. I don't get it. Like, these guys, they've got more money than they need, and yet what I would be doing if I were him, and if I were the mayor of Calgary, I'm going to put it in that position because I would do this when I became mayor. If I was in a position like him where I went to a hotel and I said, you know what, I want like a really fancy room, I want to splurge. And I went to a hotel and said, do you have a villa? And they said, we have a villa and it's $4,000 a night. And I went, okay, what is the cost of an average room here? They said, well, because it's a luxury hotel, it's $650 a night or whatever. Now, I'm basing this off the Prime Minister because when they travel, they do go to highly luxurious hotels. Their security follows them. Their people follow them. Their script writers, all their staff, I guess you could say, follow them. So they go to these high-end places where security know the layouts, and they have a working relationship with those hotels and their personnel. So I'm not going to fault that. So let's say that this is a fancy hotel. The average cost is $600 a night. And they say, well, it's $600 a night, but this villa is $4,000 a night. I would be saying, okay, so I'll tell you what, we're going to bill the taxpayer $600 a night, and I'll pay the other $3,400 if I really want that flipping room, because it's my choice. I'm the one who's upgrading. I should be paying for it, not the taxpayer. That's me splurging, right? If I have a dinner with a client and they say, well, you can go to this steakhouse or whatever, and I say, yeah, but I want to go to this fancier restaurant. Well, what would we have spent at a steakhouse? An average steakhouse, maybe a $300 meal. Okay, well, anything above $300, I'm going to pay for out of pocket because I went here out of preference. And that's my point, is that I don't first off think that anything should be on the taxpayer. I don't. I agree that some things, because it's technically a business, because you're working for the city, it's like working for a company that, you know, people come in from other cities, you got to take them out, you got to do things. I understand that end of it. And I'm not, all other cities behave like, I'm talking about personal expenses that you're choosing to upgrade on your own accord. If I was given an allowance or a per diem, I guess they call it. If I was given a per diem for a rental vehicle outside of my city, and they said, well, usually what happens when a mayor goes to another town is we cover a rental up to $300 or something for the time that you're there. Okay, if I show up and say, hey, I want a convertible because I want to look like hot shit for a week. Okay, well, I'm going to pay the difference. That should be on me. That should be on me. I'm choosing to do that. If I go on my vacation where I've already booked a car rental or a hotel or anything else, and I say, hey, I want to upgrade my room, the hotel doesn't say, oh, fantastic, we'll just put you in there. You're going to have to pay extra because you're choosing to do that. We already have a room for you. If you're going to upgrade, then that's on you, right? It's the same for these guys. It's the same for the Prime Minister when he stays in his $6,000 a night hotel rooms. You want a nicer room? I'm not saying he can't have it. Pay for it. Just like every other person who works their ass off in this country. You're no different. You're not the golden child. It's let me get caught up in the chat. Mystical saying, I wonder if there's a hotel in London that charges over $9,000 a night just so the MP can yell, it's over 9,000. It's over 9,000. Politicians and diapers should be changed often for the same reasons as Mark Twain. That's a good quote. It's like when AOC said she needs a pay raise so she will be less tempted to be bought out. And that's, well, see, in American, I'm going to pull that back up because American politics, you've got super PACs and you've got all these things that, like, their politics are so different because you can actually get endorsed by companies to speak on their behalf and do that while you're a politician, which is really weird. But yeah, be paid more so I can't be bought out. Give me a break. What, like Nancy Pelosi? Parliament is effective. It's an aristocrat's joke. You wouldn't upgrade for $3,400 a night. No, I wouldn't. But that's the point. And that's, you know what, Joe? I'm glad you said it, because I had the same discussion with my wife this afternoon. And I said I would have to pay that if I really wanted that room. Now, if I was there for 4 days, that's roughly what, $14,000? If I was going to spend $14,000 on 4 days, I either got to be loaded out the butt or out the ass. I don't know what the algorithm does in YouTube for swearing. I either got to be loaded or my wife would kill me. So the point of that is that if I said, well, I'll pay the extra $3,400 a night, my wife said, no, you certainly will not. Why should I put that on the taxpayer's dime then? Right? Like, that's, if it's too extravagant for me and I'm well paid, then it shouldn't be put onto the taxpayer. And I'm glad you brought that, because that was the exact same discussion I had with my wife. Was, you ask Justin Trudeau, would you pay $4,000 a night to stay in the hotel out of pocket? If he says absolutely, then say, good, great, here's your bill. You go ahead and pay that. But there should be a limit. There should be a cap to this stuff, right? Like, there should be a budget set. Like, any company, any corporation, when they send their employees somewhere, when you're a salesman, when you're anything, they allot you a certain amount for expenses. They say, this is what you can spend on hotel. This is what you can spend on a car rental. This is what you can spend on flights. If you want to spend above that, go ahead, but that's on you. The Canadian government, politicians, provincial, municipal, federal, they should all be on the same leash, where it's, look, this is what we figure it costs on average to do these trips. This is what you've got. And if you spend more than that, you can go right ahead, but that'll be coming out of your own pocket. Politicians would behave a lot differently if they were held to that kind of standard. And this is where I talk about our country's deficits, or provincial deficits, or municipal deficits. What kind of debt would we be out of if we held our politicians responsible to a budget and saying, you're not allowed to go over that? And this is where I talk about all the time that if I was elected mayor, I'd run it the same as my household. I don't have any debt aside from my mortgage. I do not have any debt. I have no loans. I have no credit that's due. I don't spend money I don't have. And I'd run the city the same way. That how much does a typical person spend on this trip? X amount of dollars. Okay, well, I certainly wouldn't want to go over that budget, but I'd also be asking, why are we spending that much? I had to go to Ottawa back in October, and I was there for the week, and I know what it costs me to go to Ottawa for a week. Personally, out of pocket. I could be able to do the same thing as a mayor if I went to a town, minus the cost of, going out places or meals or whatever you're doing with other parties. But I would know, based on what I do personally, what a budget should be for those kind of things. And there should be a budget set forth for Justin Trudeau. It should be, we're not going to count the jet fuel. We're not going to count the staff costs, because all of that's booked on a regular retainer. We know what we're paying for those people. It's usually the same, give or take, every time we go. But for the Prime Minister, right? For the Prime Minister, you're allotted X amount of dollars for your hotel. You're allotted X amount of dollars for entertainment, you could call it, or any of that stuff. And you are not to go over that. And if you do, you're billed for it. I guarantee you, Justin Trudeau would be watching what he's doing a lot more carefully if it was coming out of his pocket. Hotels have two pricings, regular people and politicians pricing. Fair enough. But what I'm saying is there should be, once it's that price, this is how much it's going to cost us for us to send you to a regular room. And if you want to upgrade it, that's on you. Can they not pay for what they unethically stole? Well, they could, but they don't want to. They don't. Pierre Poilievre has asked that several times about Trudeau's Jamaica trip. Can you pay back the 80-something thousand dollars or whatever it is in free gift you were taken from a Trudeau Foundation donor by being given this free villa? Nothing comes for free. So they said it's unethical to take that. So can you pay back the cost it would have been to stay at that place. And Trudeau stands up and says, oh, we've known them for decades. They're family friends. He makes every excuse in the world not to give that money back. Why? Because he's a cheap ass. And because he doesn't feel that he should. And that's my point, is that if you told them ahead of time, if there was a law, if there was boundaries to say you can't spend more than this much on this trip out of taxpayer money, they wouldn't, and you're not allowed to take free gifts from people that's conflict of interest. You know, iron it all out so that it fits for everybody. Same rules for everybody, not just one person, same rules for everybody. Would you bribe the hotel manager with a Klondike bar? I don't know. People have stopped doing risky things for Klondike bars last time I checked. They've kind of dropped the ball on Klondikes from what I've never had a Klondike. I wouldn't know. We'd be paying no taxes if they could run our city like a business. But do you notice, and you know what, that's a good point. Common sense, also welcome in. It's a good point because, and people hate when you talk about him, but look at Donald Trump. Look what the guy did in terms of deficits. What happened? Can you guys still see and hear me? Hold on, I've had a power outage. Hang on, is everybody still there? It says I'm still live. Just hold on. Let me change. You can hear? Okay. There's been a power outage in the house, so I'm running on battery power of the laptop. I got Hillaried. It's C11. It's C11. Let me stop the screen. Let me see if I can bring up my laptop camera. Let's see how that works. Hey, we got a camera. So it's going to be a little choppier. There we go. Wow. This is crazy. Half of my setup. So all this stuff behind me runs on what's called a UPS, or an uninterrupted power source. Wow. All my lighting, all of my lighting and my equipment all runs on my laptop and electrical in the house. So I've got my arcades on, but I've lost my camera and I've lost all my lighting. And geez, what a stream this has turned into. What a crazy night this is. The joys of running on a budget, right? It's this is what happens, I guess, when you speak out against the government. Now everybody's going to say that I'm putting on a tinfoil hat, say, oh, you're blaming the government for cutting you off. We're what a crazy stream. You know what we'll do, guys? We'll wrap it up early. It'll be an early stream tonight, just because my laptop will not be able to carry this stream for very long. It wasn't charged all the way. I'll have videos this week. I will have videos this week to talk about this stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream for what it was. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. When we hit 5,000 subs, I'm going to be doing the one chip challenge for charity. I will also be donating $5,000 to a local charity while we're doing that. $1 for every sub. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And keep your eyes out for videos this week, folks. Hopefully the power comes on tonight and I can have a video for tomorrow. If not, I will have one for Tuesday. You guys keep your sticks on the ice, and I'll catch you on the next one.